Hey there. Tonight we're heading somewhere a little different. Somewhere hot, wet, unforgiving, and mostly forgotten by history books that prefer their wars with clearer villains and less fungus. Welcome to the Burma Campaign, one of the longest, least glamorous, and most physically miserable fronts of the Second World War. This isn't the story of beach landings or sleek fighter planes. There are no iconic photographs, no inspiring speeches, just soldiers, mostly British and colonial troops, sweating their way through a jungle that wanted them dead even more than the enemy did. So before you drift off into that clean, cosy bed of yours, maybe hit like and subscribe if you enjoy these little history nightmares, and drop a comment letting me know what time it is for you and whether your room has air conditioning. It'll be relevant in about 3 minutes. Now turn off the lights, maybe put on a fan. Not because it will help, but because we're about to step into a place where air was thick enough to chew, clothes never dried, and survival was mostly a matter of not being noticed. By the Japanese, by the jungle, or by your own digestive system. Close your eyes and let's begin. It's 1943. You're in uniform. You've just arrived in British India, and your commanding officer has good news. You're going to the front, and not just any front, the worst one. Welcome to Burma. You're already sweating, and you haven't even gotten off the train yet. You arrive in the middle of the night. Not that it matters. Day and night blurs together here in a way that feels less poetic and more like heat stroke. The moment you step off the transport truck, it hits you, the air. It's not air the way you're used to. It's hot, wet, and somehow already inside your shirt. Imagine breathing through a damp sponge wrapped in socks someone forgot at the bottom of a gym bag. That's your first breath in Burma, and you'll be taking a lot of them. Lucky you. There's no welcoming party, no band, no rousing speech about honour or country. Just a sergeant barking orders in a tone that suggests he stopped believing in joy sometime around Dunkirk. You're told to collect your gear. What you get is a rifle that probably saw action in the last war, a kit bag that smells like mildew and disappointment, and a pair of boots that might be half a size too small, assuming you have the same number of toes at the end of this that you do now. Your uniform is khaki, stiff, and clings to your skin like it's angry at you. Within 30 seconds, it's soaked through. Not from rain. That'll come later. This is just sweat. Yours. And the guys next to you. And maybe the last 4 guys who wore this same uniform before it was handed down like a cursed relic. You marched camp through what someone optimistically calls a road. It's not a road. It's a narrow trail of churned up mud, tree roots, and tyre tracks filled with standing water that might also be mosquito nurseries. Every step is a negotiation with gravity. You slip at least once. No one helps you up. That's your welcome ceremony. By the time you reach your assigned tent, or what's left of one, your legs feel like wet sandbags, and your spine has filed an official complaint. There's no floor, just more mud. The cot is bent, the canvas is ripped, and something is already crawling underneath it. You don't want to know what. The mosquito net is a lie. It has more holes than your understanding of why you joined the army in the first place. You try to lie down. You can't. Your shirt is stuck to your back like someone glued it there. You shift positions, but that just moves the sweat into new crevices. There's no breeze, no air circulation, no relief. Just humidity sitting on your chest like a judgmental ghost. You're told to get some rest. Tomorrow's a long day. As if today wasn't already trying to kill you with its intro segment. Sleep doesn't happen. There's too much noise. Not people. The jungle. It never shuts up. Crickets, frogs, birds that sound like malfunctioning car alarms. Something that might be a monkey or might be a demon. It's loud in a way that makes your skull vibrate. But none of it is the worst part. That would be the buzzing. High-pitched, persistent, and close. Mosquitoes. Hundreds of them. Possibly thousands. A small air force dedicated entirely to finding the one exposed patch of skin you didn't think to cover. They don't care about DEET or netting or your dignity. They're here for the blood buffet, and business is booming. At some point, you drift into a half-sleep. It's not restful. It's more like unconsciousness, with dreams that feel damp and vaguely medical. You wake up to itching, sweating, and the realization that your pillow is actually your backpack, and your mouth tastes like you chewed on a rusty coin. The sun isn't even up yet, but the air somehow feels hotter. Welcome to morning in the jungle. The latrine situation is explained to you by someone who clearly takes joy in seeing the light drain from your face. There's a trench, barely dug, covered with a few planks, and surrounded by a fine mist of insects and existential despair. No walls, no privacy, just the tropical breeze and the full judgment of nature. You're advised not to take too long. Snakes like the warm ground, and they don't wait their turn. Breakfast is served under a makeshift awning, held up with sticks and string. It's tinned meat, bread that's more like a brick, and tea that tastes like it was brewed in a canteen someone peed in during the retreat from Singapore. Still, you eat. Not because you're hungry, but because you don't know when you'll see food again, and ration biscuits, once softened with tea, are technically chewable. Barely. Then comes the briefing, delivered by an officer who looks like he hasn't slept since 1941. He explains, in clipped tones, that you're moving out in 2 days. There's an operation, a push, a hill, a river, something strategic, something important, something you will not survive if you don't follow orders. He uses the phrase light resistance and manageable terrain, both of which are military code for we have no idea what's out there, and you're going to find out first. You're told to hydrate constantly, because the jungle dehydrates you, even as it drowns you. You drink from a metal flask that's been boiled, filtered, and still tastes like rust and jungle runoff. If you're lucky, it only gives you stomach cramps. If you're not, well, you'll find out around midnight, crouched in the trees, praying to whatever god handles intestinal disasters. You're assigned a section. 6 other guys. One's from Glasgow and already hates you. One won't stop talking about his wife back home. 2 of them don't talk at all. And one keeps polishing his rifle like he's trying to will himself back to England with sheer effort. They're not happy to see you. New blood means fresh targets. You'll fit in once they stop betting on how long you'll last. Training starts. Marches through the jungle. Drills. Live fire exercises where the live part is debatable. You're shown how to spot tripwires, how to handle a grenade, how to aim in terrain that blocks your vision with every leaf and vine. You're also shown a chart of local diseases, including but not limited to malaria, dengue, scrub typhus, and something called jungle sores that looks more like a chemical reaction than a medical condition. The jungle is everywhere, and it's not just a backdrop. It's the enemy you see the most. It climbs into your boots, your gear, your food, your lungs. Every vine tries to trip you. Every insect tries to bite you. Every patch of water is a breeding ground for something with too many legs and a bad attitude. It's not green. It's an ambush painted in chlorophyll. You're told not to stray from the path. Not because you'll get lost, because you might not come back. There are patrols that walk 10 minutes off course and were never seen again. No shots, no cries, just gone. Like the jungle swallowed them because it was bored. And still, you're expected to operate, to navigate, to fight. You learn to move quietly, to listen for sounds that shouldn't be there. A snapping twig, a cough, a click that isn't part of the natural symphony. You carry extra ammo, extra socks, and a knife that's too small to be useful and too big to be comforting. Mail arrives once every few weeks. Maybe. It's damp, smudged, and usually late. You get a letter from home that mentions the garden, the neighbours, and how your younger brother just got a bicycle. You read it while crouching in mud, covered in bites, wearing socks so wet they form their own culture. You fold the letter up and put it in your pocket. It feels like it came from another planet. Someone collapses from heat exhaustion. It's treated with salt tablets and a slap to the face. There's no rest, no real recovery. You don't get sent home unless you're missing something important, like a limb or a heartbeat. Otherwise you get up and keep going. And then, just when you think it can't get worse, it rains. Not drizzle. Not showers. Rain. Biblical. Continuous for deafening. It doesn't stop. It just slows down occasionally, like it's catching its breath. Everything floods, and your tent becomes a soup bowl. Your clothes never dry again. Your boots fill with water and stay that way. You sleep wet, wake up wetter, and try not to think about trench foot, which is already happening. The rain soaks your rifle, your rations, your socks, your soul. You can't hear orders. You can't see more than 10 feet ahead. But you're expected to march, to patrol, to survive. And somewhere out there, the Japanese are doing the same. Except they know this terrain better than you do. They move quietly, hide better, shoot straighter, and they're already waiting. You start to understand why no one talks about this campaign. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. It's just endless. Endless walking, sweating, scratching, shivering, bleeding, waiting. You haven't even reached the front line yet. And already the jungle has made it clear. It doesn't care who wins this war. And now, it's time to pack up. You're heading deeper in. There's a trail, a ridge, and a position that needs to be taken. You're told it'll be routine, which by now you understand means at least 2 people won't come back. You shoulder your pack, adjust your helmet, and step back onto the trail. The mud greets you like an old enemy. The jungle leans in, listening. The first thing you realise as you push deeper into the jungle is that your uniform wasn't designed by someone who had ever stepped foot in a jungle. It was designed by a committee. Somewhere dry, probably with tea service. And the result is what you're currently wearing, a khaki wool blend that clings to you like punishment. It absorbs moisture like a sponge, but never lets go of it. It's not just uncomfortable, it's vindictive. Your shirt sticks to your chest like wet cardboard. Your shorts, if they can be called that, end at an arbitrary point just above the knees, giving insects a perfectly framed runway to your thighs. The fabric is coarse, scratchy, rubs in all the worst places. After 20 minutes of marching, your inner thighs feel like sandpaper was applied during a fever dream. By the end of the day, the chafing will have gone from minor irritation to open rebellion. And there's no backup outfit. This is it. Your one and only. You wear it until it either falls off or fuses with your skin. You're told this is tropical gear. as if the word tropical is supposed to make you feel like you're on holiday. The only thing tropical about it is the fact that it's constantly wet, smells like fungus, and turns every part of your body into a sauna. There's a pith helmet, if you're lucky. A big, clunky thing that blocks the sun just enough to trap all the heat directly against your skull. It makes you sweat more. It also makes you easier to spot, so there's a solid chance it's doubling as a target. You start wearing it less. Not because it's smart, but because you want to die slightly more comfortably. Your boots were probably new once, not anymore. They soak up water, mud, and regret with equal efficiency. The soles have started to separate after 2 days in the muck, and every step you take sounds like a clogged sink clearing its throat. The laces are fraying, and the leather is starting to grow something. You suspect mould, but you don't want to investigate. Your socks gave up the ghost somewhere around the third stream crossing. They now function primarily as a delivery system for blisters and trench foot. Speaking of socks, you were issued 2 pairs, not 2 extra pairs, 2 total. Which is fine in theory, assuming you enjoy rotating between damp and slightly damper. You're supposed to dry them over a fire at night, but that requires a fire, and dry air, and hope. All 3 are in short supply. So instead, you wring them out, lay them across a stick, and pretend that they're drying while the rain soaks them again from above. Hygiene becomes a theoretical concept. Your body never dries. Not your hair, not your armpits, not the space between your toes. Everything is wet, always. And it's not just water, it's sweat, mud, and something that might be alive. You've stopped asking questions. Your shirt has changed colour in 3 different places, and you're pretty sure it smells like vinegar mixed with decay. Everyone else smells the same, no one mentions it. There's an unspoken agreement that olfactory honesty would break morale entirely. Then there's your gear. You carry everything. Ammo, entrenching tool, water flask, rations, extra magazines, rain cape, gas mask you'll probably never use, and something someone once claimed was a map. It weighs more than it should. Every step is a choreographed negotiation between your spine and your knees. The straps dig into your shoulders like someone slowly sawing through muscle. The weight shifts unpredictably with every lurch of the trail, making balance more of a fantasy than a skill. Your back itches constantly. You try not to scratch. Not because it's impolite, but because every time you do, something comes off under your fingernails. Dead skin? Insect bites? Mould? Best not to look. There's no mirror anyway, and the last guy who tried to inspect his rash ended up digging at it so much he tore open his own shoulder. He's still in your unit. Now he just shrugs when someone points out he's bleeding again. Some soldiers try to modify their uniforms. Cut the sleeves, roll the shorts higher, swap boots for sandals. All of it's forbidden. The officers want uniformity. Discipline. Presentation. You want not to be eaten alive by the inside of your own shirt. It's a constant negotiation between following orders and not dying from your outfit. At some point, you start fantasizing. Not about home. Not even about the war ending. You fantasize about dry clothes. That's it. Just putting on something dry and clean. Cotton. Maybe a t-shirt. Maybe something that doesn't smell like it came out of a trench, shared with a corpse and a damp dog. You'd give up a week's rations just to sit in front of a fan with your shirt off, and feel a breeze that wasn't trying to carry spores into your lungs. There's a rumour about a guy in another unit who got trench rot so bad, the doctor made him march barefoot to let his boots dry out. The The guy stepped on a bamboo spike 5 minutes later and ended up with gangrene. You hear this story while pulling a leech off your calf. The leech is fat, full of your blood, and somehow looks smug about it. You flick it away. It lands in your sock. You leave it there. You're too tired to care. Every fold in your uniform becomes a potential infection site. The waistline, the armpits, the backs of your knees. You develop a rash that spreads like a military campaign of its own. You report it. The medic gives you powder. It does nothing. You report it again. He gives you whiskey. You drink the whiskey and stop reporting things. Bugs crawl into your shirt while you sleep. You wake up scratching and slapping and sometimes screaming. Everyone else is doing the same. It's a chorus of manic rustling and whispered curses. Someone develops a tick infestation in his trousers. He stops sitting down. No one questions it. A guy from your section ties string around his ankles because he believes it keeps the ants out. It doesn't. Now he just has string-shaped indentations above the bites. You wonder why none of this was mentioned in training. Why the posters said, "See the world," but never specified it would involve seeing your own skin rot in real time. The recruitment brochure didn't mention that your thighs would be constantly rubbed raw by wet canvas while you try not to pass out from dehydration in the shade of a tree that's also trying to kill you by dropping insects the size of pocket watches onto your helmet. Someone suggests wrapping your feet in cabbage leaves to stop the skin from breaking. No one has cabbage, or clean water, or time. So instead, you just keep walking. You adjust your straps. You try not to limp. You fantasize about boots that don't squish when you step. Your rifle gets the same treatment. It hates the jungle too. The wood swells from the humidity. The bolt sticks. And every day is a careful balance between keeping it clean enough to fire and not wasting your precious rag, which by now is mostly mud held together with grease and despair. You sleep with it, not out of love or discipline, but because anything you leave out overnight is either stolen by monkeys, soaked by rain, or used as a nesting site by something that hisses. Officers keep reminding you to maintain standards. So you polish your boots with spit and ash. You shave with a dull blade while staring into a puddle. You button up your shirt, even as it fuses to your chest, with a layer of sweat and whatever fungal situation is happening on your collar. You salute when required, knowing full well that your arm smells like rotting cheese. And through it all, you keep moving, because there's always somewhere else to march. Another position, another ridge, another outpost that needs defending, another 6-hour trek through waist-high grass, where every step might uncover a snake nest, a landmine, or a rotting carcass with just enough smell left to make you question the entire war. Eventually the rain comes back. Not that it ever really left, but now it's serious again. Sheets of water slam into the canopy, break through, and soak you from above, while the mud pulls at your boots from below. Your uniform tightens like shrink wrap. Your rifle becomes a slippery log. Your pack doubles in weight. You look around and see a dozen other soldiers, all just as soaked, all just as miserable. None of them complaining anymore, because there's nothing left to say. This is the uniform you'll live in, sleep in, and probably die in. Not in a blaze of glory, just quietly, from a bite, from rot, from exhaustion. You're not fighting the enemy today. You're fighting your shirt, your boots, your own body, and you're losing. The march continues. The trail curves uphill. The leeches are out again. You pull one from your ankle and flick it into the grass. You think about what part of you will give out first. Your back, your knees, or your skin. It's a race now. Jungle versus uniform versus you. And you already know who's coming in last. You don't wake up so much as come to. Not because the sun is up. The sun hasn't been visible in days. It's more of a vague lightening of the sky filtered through clouds thick enough to hold a grudge. You wake because the rain never stopped. And at some point during the night, it changed direction and started coming sideways. Now it's in your face. The tarp you tried to sleep under has collapsed in one corner. The rope snapped sometime around 3 a.m, but nobody moved to fix it, because getting out of your sleeping position would have meant standing in water up to your ankles. And nobody does that voluntarily anymore. Not even the eager ones. Especially not the eager ones. They've learned. Your pack is soaked again, even though you placed it on rocks, wrapped it in canvas, and cursed over it like a protective spell. The moisture always finds a way. It's in your socks. It's in your rations. It's in your soul. You wring out your shirt before you put it on. Not that it matters. It'll be soaked through in 10 minutes anyway, either from rain or sweat, or that creeping jungle humidity that seeps into everything and then stays there. You crawl out of your shelter, boots squishing, legs stiff. Every muscle protests. Knees don't bend right. Ankles threaten mutiny. Your back feels like it aged 20 years overnight, and your shoulders ache from sleeping in the fetal position to avoid a leak that still managed to drip directly into your ear. Outside, it's not just raining. It's hammering. The kind of rain that makes you feel like the sky is trying to peel the skin off your scalp. Every drop lands like a slap. You can't see more than 20 feet in any direction. The trees around you fade into a foggy wall of green and grey. The only sounds are water. Falling, splashing, pooling, and occasionally being angrily displaced by someone trudging through it. Breakfast isn't served so much as handed out like a grim lottery. One damp can of meat. Some biscuits in wax paper that's more wax than paper. And tea, assuming someone managed to get a fire going, which they didn't. So today's tea is just warm rain in a mess tin with a floating leaf, and a suggestion of flavour from yesterday's tea bag that someone reboiled until it gave up. You try to eat quickly, but there's nowhere dry to sit. So you stand, hunched under a tree that offers exactly no protection, trying to chew a biscuit that tastes like rain-flavoured drywall. You dunk it in your lukewarm tea to soften it, then regret everything. It's not food anymore, it's paste, and not the good kind. You force it down anyway, because calories are calories, and you'll need every one of them to get through what comes next. There's no scheduled action today, which is officer speak for you'll probably still get shot at, but nobody will care enough to file the paperwork. The rain is so heavy, even the birds are quiet, which might be peaceful if it weren't for the underlying dread that when the birds stop chirping, it usually means something worse is watching. You've learned to listen for the silence. It's never a good sign. You check your gear. Everything is wet. The ammo is damp, but still serviceable. The rifle needs cleaning again, a process you'll do with the edge of your shirt and a stick, because that's the only equipment available. Your boots are starting to smell like death on a good day. Today they smell like death after a workout. You're ordered to move out. A short patrol. 4 miles. That's the theory. In practice, 4 miles here means slogging through waist-deep mud, ducking under branches thick with thorns, and slipping down slopes that weren't even there the last time you passed this way. The monsoon reshapes everything. Trails vanish, trees fall, rivers change direction out of spite. You start walking. The jungle squelches beneath you. Mud pulls at your boots like it's trying to keep you. You lift one foot, place it forward, sink again, repeat. Every step is a negotiation. Your shoulders burn. Your rifle strap digs into your collarbone. Your uniform sticks to every part of your body like damp bandages. It's not long before the leeches show up. They love the monsoon. It's their version of happy hour. You feel them crawling up your legs under your socks. You don't scream anymore. You just reach down, pinch them off, flick them away, and keep moving. One guy uses salt. Another burns them off with a match. You just pray they aren't inside your shirt. You stop for water. Not because you're thirsty, but because if you don't hydrate, you'll pass out. It's warm, filtered through a sock, and tastes like rust and iodine. You sip slowly, counting seconds, trying to make it last. Then the march continues. The trail narrows, the rain thickens, vision drops to 5 feet. You're basically walking through soup. Someone ahead slips, goes down hard. You hear the impact. A splash, followed by silence, then cursing. He's fine, just covered in mud, blood, and his own embarrassment. Nobody laughs. Everyone's fallen at least once, some of you multiple times. You keep moving. A tree blocks the path. You have to detour. 10 minutes through brush that grabs your arms like it's trying to shake you down for spare change. Every plant here has thorns. Every vine wants to wrap around your ankles. You hear a hiss. Not a person. Something else. No one investigates. You just pick up the pace and pretend you didn't hear it. By midday, you're soaked through 3 layers of clothing. Your feet feel like meatloaf. Your hands are pale and wrinkled, the skin starting to slough off in places you didn't know could slough. Blisters have burst and reformed under your heels. Your shirt is bleeding dye into your skin. Everything smells like mildew, metal, and body odour. Lunch is skipped. There's no dry place to stop. The rain hasn't let up for even a minute. The jungle floor is mud and standing water. So instead, you chew on a biscuit while walking and chase it with water that tastes vaguely like something died upstream. You stop caring about flavour. All you want is not to collapse. Then comes the river. Not a real one, just runoff, swollen from the storm. Waist deep, fast moving, brown with sediment, and something that might be sewage. You're told to cross carefully, which means trying not to get swept away while carrying 30 pounds of gear and keeping your rifle above water. 2 guys almost go under. One loses his helmet, another his balance. Nobody dies, this time. Once you're across, there's no towel, no change of clothes. You keep marching, because standing still in the monsoon just means getting colder. And trenchfoot doesn't wait. Your skin is now permanently pruned. Your toes feel soft, like raw meat. You try not to think about it. Afternoon drags into evening. Still raining. Always raining. The canopy above doesn't help. It just turns the rain into a fine mist that penetrates even deeper. You stop under a tree that leaks slightly less than the others. No fire tonight. No dry clothes. Just more rations. Another tin of mystery meat and crackers that crumble into wet sand the moment you touch them. You eat in silence. Someone develops a cough. A wet, hacking thing that makes everyone else flinch. It might be nothing. Might be the beginning of something. Doesn't matter. There's no medic here. No tent. No medicine. Just a damp handkerchief and a pat on the back that leaves a smear of something you pretend is just mud. Sleep doesn't come easy. You lie down in your wet clothes on your wet mat under your wet tarp and pretend this is normal. Mosquitoes dive bomb your face. You swat half-heartedly. You itch constantly. Your back hurts. Your knees throb. You try to curl up, but your muscles won't cooperate. And just when you think you've found a moment of peace, thunder cracks, loud, immediate, it rattles your teeth. The storm is directly overhead now. Rain intensifies, if that's even possible. The jungle lights up in brief flashes, then goes dark again. It smells like ozone and rot. Someone whispers a prayer. Someone else mutters a curse. You close your eyes, try to shut it out, try to sleep. But your mind keeps running through tomorrow. More rain, more mud, another patrol, another crossing, another round of slow, relentless misery. You wonder how long before something gives out. Your boots, your skin, your lungs, your mind. But you don't ask. Because no one has answers. And even if they did, the rain would drown them out. You wake up with your face stuck to canvas. Not stuck metaphorically, stuck literally. Your cheek has fused to the surface of your ground sheet because, during the night, it soaked up a combination of sweat, condensation, and whatever leaked out of your pack after your last can of meat exploded from the heat. You peel your face off with a quiet squelch, sit up slowly, and immediately regret it. Every joint in your body complains like you just tried to stand after hibernating in a swamp. Which, in fairness, you have. Outside, it's morning in theory. You can tell because the sky is a slightly lighter shade of grey than it was 4 hours ago. Rain is still coming down, though it's less aggressive now. More like a passive-aggressive drizzle that wants you to know it hasn't forgotten about you. The jungle smells like mouldy leaves and something vaguely chemical. You wonder briefly if it's your clothes or your own body. Doesn't matter. You're out of anything that could make a difference. Someone calls out for breakfast detail. You think about pretending to still be asleep. You do this every morning. And every morning, someone kicks your boot and tells you to get moving. You half crawl out of your shelter, stretch just enough to make your spine crack, and shuffle toward the makeshift feeding area. It's not really an area, just a patch of trampled mud where people stand in line and question their life choices. Breakfast is exactly what it always is. A tin of something, a piece of something else, and tea if someone didn't screw up the fire again. The fire is a gamble. Sometimes it's just hot enough to make the water lukewarm. Sometimes it goes out completely because the wood's still wet from last month. Either way, the water smells faintly of smoke, sweat, and desperation. You drink it anyway. It's the closest thing to a hot beverage you're going to get before the next monsoon wipes it off the map. Today's main course is a can of makanoti stew. You open it with a dull knife and a grimace. Inside, a brownish-orange mess of turnips, carrots and meat that hasn't resembled meat since it left the factory. It slithers out of the can in one gelatinous lump and lands in your mess tin with a wet plop. Steam rises off it in uneven patches, like it's trying to make a run for it. You're not sure what animal it came from, or if it was an animal at all. You just know that it smells vaguely metallic and somehow worse after heating. You take a bite. The texture is what you'd expect if someone boiled despair and thickened it with regret. The turnip is soft, but not in a cooked way. More like it gave up trying to be solid halfway through. The meat, if it is meat, has the consistency of wet cardboard that's been stomped on, dried in the sun, and rehydrated with rainwater. You chew slowly. There's no rush. There's also no joy. Next to the stew is your biscuit. Not sweet, not buttery, just a compressed disc of flour and salt that could double as a structural support beam. You've seen these things survive trench collapses. You knock it against your mess tin, and it makes a sound like ceramic. Some people soak theirs in tea. Others just nibble it, slowly like a punishment snack. You take one bite and feel your molars shift in protest. You chew anyway. The tea's ready now. It's weak, bitter, and the colour of dirty dishwater. Still, it's warm. Warm is a luxury. You hold the tin between both hands and sip carefully. You ignore the floating flecks of ash and whatever bug died in the water. You're pretty sure you saw a wing. You drink it anyway. It's the only thing here that doesn't require chewing. Someone nearby pulls out a can of corned beef. He offers a slice to the group. It's a rare treat. You accept a piece about the size of a coin and chew it like it's filet mignon. It's salty, fatty, and tastes like actual food for a brief, shining moment. Then it's gone, and you're back to your stew. Nobody talks during breakfast. You hear chewing, occasional muttering, the scrape of spoons, and the constant background of rain hitting the leaves overhead. There's no small talk, no conversation, just the ritual. Wake up, eat, pack, move, repeat until someone dies or the war ends, whichever comes first. Someone complains about the meat again, says it tastes like it was packed in World War I. The joke isn't funny anymore because it's probably true. Most of these rations were sitting in a warehouse for a decade before being loaded onto a boat and shipped halfway around the world to spoil under the Burmese sun. You've stopped looking at the expiry dates. It's better not to know. You glance at your watch. Still early. Too early. Which means more time to march. More jungle. More sweat. The officer barks something about movement in 20 minutes. You're told to eat quickly. As if anyone here is savouring this, you finish what you can. You scrape the last bits of grease and vegetable mush from the bottom of the tin with a piece of biscuit, which immediately dissolves on contact. You drink the rest of your tea and hope it settles your stomach, instead of jump-starting another round of gastrointestinal roulette. Packing up is automatic now. You clean your mess tin with a rag that hasn't been dry in 2 weeks. You tie it back to your pack. You check your rifle. You stand, stretch, and feel your lower back threaten mutiny again. You sigh. It's not even mid-morning, and you already smell like boiled laundry. Someone throws away half their stew. A waste, but understandable. You used to do the same. Not anymore. Now you scrape every calorie you can, because when the next supply drop misses your unit, and it will, that same stew will start to look like a gourmet memory. You pick a bit of meat from your teeth with your fingernail and swallow it out of spite. You shoulder your pack, adjust your rifle and fall into line. The trail ahead looks just like yesterday and the day before. Narrow, muddy, uneven, and surrounded by trees that feel like they're closing in just a little more each day. Rain picks up again, because of course it does. No one says anything. No one needs to. The jungle talks enough for everyone. The march begins with mud. It always does. Not just any mud. The thick, glutinous, boot-eating kind that pulls at your legs like it's trying to drag you under. Every step is a full-body effort. Your knees don't bend properly anymore. Your socks are fused to your feet, and your boots squish like wet bread. Within 10 minutes, you're soaked again, not from rain, but from sweat. which the jungle helpfully refuses to evaporate. It just sits there, collecting in your collar, pooling in your waistband, soaking through your shirt until your back feels like it's being slowly boiled inside a canvas bag. The line of men stretches ahead and behind you, one long, miserable procession of khaki, rags and silence. No one speaks. Conversation takes energy, and energy is now treated like a rare currency. You save it for climbing ridges, or fending off insects, or screaming when something bites your leg, and you don't know what it was. You move at the pace of the man in front of you. If he limps, you limp. If he stumbles, you stumble. If he collapses, someone drags him off the trail, and the rest keep moving. There's no time to stop, no room to rest. The jungle doesn't allow it. Once you stop moving, you start sinking into the mud, into exhaustion, into whatever fever happens to be waiting in the wings today. The terrain offers variety only in new ways to make you suffer. 1 minute you're slipping through ankle-deep swamp water, the next you're climbing a slope slick with moss and disappointment. Roots stretch across the trail like traps. Vines dangle like nooses. Every plant has thorns, barbs or sap that burns your skin. You push through anyway. You stopped being surprised 3 days ago. Insects are everywhere. Some fly into your mouth when you breathe. Others crawl under your shirt. You try not to think about it. One guy in your section found a centipede in his boot yesterday, 8 inches long, bit him twice before he could yank the thing out. He's still limping. The medic said he'll be fine. You don't believe the medic anymore. You pass a village, or what's left of one. Huts half collapsed, chickens wandering through ash. No people. They moved out or were moved out. No one says anything. One of the buildings still smoulders faintly, even in this rain. You don't look too closely. Orders are orders. Keep moving. The heat is a presence now. Not just temperature, but a weight pressing against your lungs. The humidity makes your clothes stick to your skin like glue. Every breath feels like inhaling warm soup. Sweat runs down your face, into your eyes, your mouth. Everything tastes salty, metallic, and wrong. You're told to hydrate. You drink from your flask. Water's so hot it burns your throat going down. Still you drink. The alternative is collapse. The officer calls a halt, not a break. That implies rest. This is a pause. Long enough for the stragglers to catch up, and for the lucky ones to piss behind a tree. You drop your pack to the ground and immediately regret it. Picking it back up will require more effort than you currently have. You stretch. Your back pops. Something in your shoulder shifts the wrong way and then shifts back. You pretend it didn't happen. You check your feet. They're damp, blistered, and beginning to smell like something died in your boots last week and brought friends. You change your socks, from wet to slightly less wet. Your toes are white, puckered, and soft. You wiggle them, mostly to convince yourself they're still attached. The break ends after 7 minutes. You shoulder your gear and keep moving. No one complains. Complaining implies someone is listening. Your rifle is slick with moisture. You wrap a bit of rag around the barrel just to keep your grip. You clean it whenever you can, but the rust is creeping in. Everything metal rusts here. Knives, bolts, buttons, buckles. Even your dog tags are starting to turn brown around the edges. The jungle eats everything eventually. Men, weapons, morale. Afternoon rolls in without warning. Time doesn't feel real anymore. The light stays the same, grey, filtered, diffused. No shadows, no sun. Just endless damp brightness that presses on your skull like a headache made of mist. Your stomach growls. You ignore it. Lunch is a biscuit and a handful of peanuts, chewed slowly while walking. You don't stop to eat. Stopping makes it harder to start again. Someone ahead stumbles. Not dramatic, just a small misstep. But he doesn't get up. You walk past him as two others help him to the side. Heat exhaustion. Or maybe something worse. Maybe dengue. Maybe his legs finally gave out. You don't ask. You just keep moving. There's a bridge up ahead. Bridge is generous. It's a couple of planks tied together with rope that looks frayed enough to qualify as historical. Below it, a stream surges with muddy water. Fast, loud, angry. You cross one at a time, arms out for balance, trying not to look down. The plank shifts under your boot. Your stomach flips. You make it across. Someone else doesn't. They slip, catch themselves, lose their rifle in the current. It vanishes instantly. They're yelled at. Nothing else happens. Marching continues. Feet drag now. Boots heavier than before. The mud clings harder. The leeches are back. You feel one on your calf, but can't stop to pull it off. It pulses as it feeds. You give it a name. Humour helps sometimes. Rain returns late in the day, like it remembered you were feeling slightly less awful, and decided to fix that. It starts light, then picks up. Drops the size of coins, slam into your helmet. Water trickles down the back of your neck, into your shirt, pooling in the waistband of your trousers. Your boots slosh. Your fingers wrinkle. You trudge on. When the order to halt finally comes, it's not relief. It's a delay. You're not at camp. You're not at the next objective. You're just far enough in that turning back isn't an option, and going forward means more of the same. You're told to make shelter. You pull out your tarp, stakes, and string, and try to pretend that dry is a concept that still exists. The jungle around you hisses with insects. Something screeches in the distance. A bird, maybe? Maybe not. You clear a patch of ground with your entrenching tool, trying to pretend you're not standing in leech-infested sludge. You drive in the stakes with a rock. The rope snaps once, then again. You tie it off with your bootlace. Your shelter looks like a half-deflated tent, held up by spite. You crawl inside, remove your boots, and check your feet again. The skin peels in sheets. Your socks are stained red. You don't remember when the bleeding started. You rub on a bit of powder and hope for the best. Dinner is more of the same. Tinned meat, if you're lucky. Crackers that crumble into dust. Tea if someone found dry wood. You eat in silence. Someone pukes behind a tree. Nobody reacts. The officer tells you you're making good progress. You don't respond. You lie down on your mat, curl into a damp ball, and close your eyes. Tomorrow you march again. You wake up mid-scratch. It's become reflexive. Your fingers move before your brain does. The inside of your thigh, the back of your neck, the place between your shoulder blades you can't quite reach. All of them itch with a kind of intensity that makes you wonder if your skin is just trying to detach and go live somewhere less humid. You sit up and realise the culprit. Leeches. Again. At least 3 on your ankles. One fat and glossy, already bloated with your blood. You pluck them off with a practice motion, flick them away. One lands on someone else's tarp. He doesn't notice. Or maybe he doesn't care. Breakfast is an afterthought. Biscuit, sludge tea. Something gelatinous from a dented tin. You eat mechanically, eyes half closed, brain not quite online yet. Across from you, someone is picking lice out of his shirt seams with the casual efficiency of a man who has accepted that he is now a mobile insect colony. You finish your tea, which tastes like boiled socks with a hint of rust, and pack up your shelter. It never fully dried out, of course. It never does. You're told there's a recon patrol leaving at 0600. That means now. You're on it. 8 men, light kit, in and out. You tighten your pack, double check your ammo, and smear a fresh layer of mosquito repellent onto your arms. It doesn't work, but it smells like you're trying. You move out at a crouch, weaving through the undergrowth in single file. The trail is barely a trail, more like a suggestion. Mud churns beneath your boots, vines whip at your face, and every step is a test of your balance and patience. The jungle is louder in the early morning. Frogs, birds, insects, all competing in a soundscape designed by chaos. You move quietly because you're supposed to, because you're told the enemy might be near. But mostly, you move quietly because talking takes energy, and no one has any to spare. It's not long before the first leech breaks through. You feel it crawl up your sock, slow and deliberate, like it's got all day. You ignore it for now. Stopping to deal with one means falling behind, and falling behind means someone yells, and someone yelling means everyone else hates you. So you keep moving. The patrol leader signals a halt, hand up, fist closed. You stop mid-step, freeze. There's movement up ahead, just a flicker. Could be anything, could be nothing. Everyone goes still. Someone flicks the safety off their rifle too loudly. The sound is obscene in the silence. You wait. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Nothing. A bird squawks, or maybe it's not a bird. You move again. A branch snaps behind you. You whirl, rifle up. It's Davies. He tripped. Again. You lower the rifle, jaw clenched. He mutters something about wet roots. You don't answer. You're too busy checking your pulse. It's too fast. Not from exertion. From the moment your own weapon was nearly used on a friend because your nerves are now permanently frayed. You move again, this time slower. The jungle narrows. You crawl over a fallen tree slick with moss, drop into a gully full of stagnant water, then climb up the other side using a root that snaps halfway through. Your knee slams into a rock. You hiss, bite your lip, keep going. Pain is background noise now. An hour in, the leeches are winning. You stop under cover, roll down your socks, and find at least 6 clinging to your legs. One is inside your boot. Another is curled up beneath your kneecap. You pull them off with fingers that barely grip anymore. Blood runs down your shin. You wipe it off with a leaf. Or maybe it's not a leaf. Too late now. Davies is ahead of you again. Still muttering. Still crashing through the jungle like he's trying to alert the enemy. You want to yell, but you don't. You're not sure what good it would do. Instead, you stare at his back and wonder, not for the first time, what the odds are that one day you'll shoot the wrong person. Not the enemy. Not by accident, just the wrong person. The patrol takes a sharp turn toward a ridge. You ascend single file. The incline is steep, the mud loose. One man slips, lands hard. His rifle hits a rock, fires. The shot echoes like a thunderclap. Everyone drops. Heartbeats spike. The jungle goes silent. You wait for return fire. Nothing comes. Just the slow drip of rain from the leaves above, and the sound of the guy who slipped apologising under his breath, like that'll undo anything. The patrol leader walks over and hits him, not hard, just enough to make a point. Nobody says a word. You get up, wipe the mud off your hands and keep climbing. By noon, you're back where you started. The recon turned up nothing. No enemy, no movement, just trees and mud and sweat. You file into camp like ghosts. The sun tries to poke through the clouds, fails and gives up. Someone is boiling water for tea. Someone else is picking ticks out of his belly button with a bayonet. You collapse next to your tarp, roll up your sleeve, and find another leech. You don't even blink. Just pinch it off and flick it into the fire. You check your legs. 3 bites. 1 still bleeding. You wrap it with gauze that's been used at least 3 times. No antiseptic, no tape, just wrap and hope. You pull your boots off and pour out water. The stench makes your eyes water. You wring out your socks, slap them against your thigh, and put them right back on. There are no other options. Davies sits nearby, sharpening his bayonet with a piece of broken rock. He's humming something. Out of tune, too loud, off beat. You stare at him for just a second too long. He doesn't notice. You look away. Someone asks where the medic is. No one knows. Probably tending to one of the men from yesterday's march. Or passed out somewhere. Or sick himself. Everyone's sick now. Or getting there. A cough here. A limp there. No one is at full strength. Haven't been in weeks. Evening comes. Dinner is more of the same. Rations. Tea. The faint hope that tomorrow might be different, even though it won't be. You eat in silence, swatting away flies, itching your ankles, wondering how long you can keep going without losing more than blood. Later that night, someone fires a shot by mistake. A rustle in the dark. A flash of panic. A rifle goes off. No one's hit, but everyone's awake now. You lie there, staring at the tarp ceiling, heart pounding, rain tapping out an irregular rhythm. You hear someone muttering a prayer, someone else swearing. The jungle, as always, doesn't care. You roll onto your side. You feel another leech. You don't bother pulling it off. You'll deal with it in the morning, if there is one. You're halfway through chewing a piece of biscuit when it hits. Not a cramp, not a stomachache, something deeper, primal. Like your intestines just staged a coup, and the rest of your body is scrambling to catch up. You freeze, half a bite still in your mouth, then set it down carefully like you're disarming a bomb. Your stomach gurgles. Loudly. Everyone hears it. No one says anything. They've heard that sound before. There's no subtlety to it. No slow build. No warning signs. Just the sudden realization that your internal plumbing has switched to full evacuation mode, and whatever is coming out doesn't intend to wait for a convenient time or location. You stand, too fast. Your head spins. You clutch your stomach and start scanning. No latrine. Of course not. You're in the middle of nowhere, on the edge of camp, surrounded by wet trees, mud, and judgment. You pick a direction and start walking. Fast, not quite running. Running would trigger something you won't be able to control. Every step is a negotiation. You feel every bounce, every jolt, every unsteady rock underfoot. You're sweating again, not from heat, from fear. You clench every muscle below the waist and pray that your body hold out just another 30 seconds. You find a spot, behind a tree, down a slope, somewhere private-ish. You fumble with your belt, drop into a squat, and lose all dignity. It's not solid. It's not even liquid. It's something in between. It feels like your organs are trying to leave you 1 ounce at a time. There's no control. Just wave after wave. Your legs tremble. You close your eyes. It's over in less than a minute, but it feels like hours. No toilet paper, obviously. You do what everyone else does. Grab a leaf, examine it briefly, use it anyway, and try not to think about what it touched before it touched you. You pull your trousers back up, still sweating, still clenching, and take one cautious step. Your gut lurches again. Round 2, back to the tree, same position, less hope. When it finally stops, for now, you crawl back up the slope, slower than before. Your legs shake. Your stomach is still doing laps inside your abdomen. You feel hollow, drained, like someone took a vacuum to your insides. You stumble back into camp and sit down carefully, as if sitting too hard might trigger another episode. Nobody asks where you were. They know. One guy hands you a canteen. You drink. The water is warm, metallic, and doesn't help. Your stomach growls again. You close your eyes and wait. Maybe it'll pass. It doesn't. For the next 2 days, you don't so much eat as you do attempt eating. Small bites, sips. Everything tastes wrong. Your body rejects food like it's a foreign object. Crackers become paste. Tea makes you nauseous. Tinned meat, the kind you used to eat just to stay sane, now smells like a crime scene. You force it down anyway. You have to. There's no time to be picky. But every meal is a gamble. Sometimes you keep it. Sometimes you don't. The cramping comes in waves. Sometimes subtle. Sometimes so sharp it drops you mid-sentence. You learn to crouch quickly. You stop wearing your belt. It's faster that way. You pick latrine spots the way soldiers pick ambush sites. With maximum coverage, easy escape, and a clear line of retreat. Sleep becomes impossible. You drift off in short bursts, only to wake up with your stomach twisting like it's wringing itself dry. You dream about clean bathrooms, white tiles, soft toilet paper, flushing. You wake up to jungle, darkness, and the urgent need to sprint into the woods before disaster strikes again. Your body weakens. Every movement is harder. Climbing hills feels like scaling mountains. Marching becomes torture. You sweat more. Not the usual jungle sweat. This is cold, clammy, panic sweat. You drink more water, but it doesn't stay. You drink again, and again. You feel like a human funnel. Everything in, everything out. Someone else in the unit has it too. You recognise the signs. Pale, hunched over, always scanning for exits. He stumbles behind a bush and doesn't come out for 15 minutes. When he does, he's shaking. You make eye contact. You nod. Brotherhood forged in bowel movements. The medic gives you pills. Chalky, bitter, and useless. He shrugs when you ask how long it will last. Could be days, he says. Could be weeks. He tells you to rest. You laugh. There's no rest. You're in a moving unit. You march or you get left behind. So you march. Slowly. Carefully. One cautious step at a time, praying your guts don't betray you mid-stride. You stop carrying extra gear. You can't. Your strength is gone. Even your rifle feels heavy now. Your shoulders slump. You lose weight. Your trousers hang looser. Your belt, when you do wear it, buckles tighter every few days. You start to look like everyone else. Gaunt, pale, hollow-eyed. Your boots are worse than ever. The insides are slick, not with water, but with sweat and grime. Your socks stay damp. You stop changing them because every movement below the waist feels like a risk. You've got a rash on your thighs now. It burns. Everything burns. Sitting hurts. Standing hurts. There's no winning position. Someone tells you it might be amoebic. Someone else says it's just Burma belly. You don't care what it's called. You just want it to stop. One guy says he passed a worm. Just casually mentioned it while eating. No one flinched. During patrols, You keep to the edge of the group. Easier to duck out if you need to. You stop carrying extra magazines. You stop talking. You just walk, think, scan, clench, repeat. At night, you lie on your mat, curled in a ball, praying that tonight will be different. That maybe your body will take a break. That maybe your next meal will stay in place long enough to give you some strength. You hear someone coughing in the next tarp over. Wet, deep, full of phlegm. Could be malaria. Could be pneumonia. Could be something worse. But nobody gets checked unless they collapse. You wonder if dysentery will be what takes you out. Not a bullet. Not a landmine. Not an ambush. Just slow, quiet dehydration in the middle of a jungle while your comrades step around you and make morning tea. You sip water, close your eyes, wait for the next wave. It doesn't take long. You never gave much thought to air before this. It was just there. Background, automatic, easy. Not anymore. In Burma, the air isn't just hot. It's hostile. It doesn't feel like something you're supposed to breathe. It feels like something you're supposed to survive. Every breath is thick, damp, and slightly offensive, like you're trying to inhale through a wet towel soaked in old tea and mildew. You wake up in the middle of the night, choking. Not dramatically, just a slow, congested drowning from the inside. Your nose is blocked. Your throat is coated with something unpleasant. Your chest rattles with every breath. It sounds like there's gravel in your lungs. Someone in the next tarp over is already coughing, hacking deep and wet like he's trying to vomit up a boot. Nobody asks if he's all right. Nobody needs to. Everyone sounds like that now. The jungle air does something to you. You don't know what exactly, but it starts subtle. One day your nose runs. The next, your throat feels raw, and then your chest tightens. You write it off as fatigue, or the result of drinking from a stream that might have recently held a dead water buffalo. But then it lingers. Gets deeper. Worse. Your breath becomes effort. You lie awake at night, listening to your own lungs creak. It's not cold, not even close. The heat is constant, heavy and wet, the kind of heat that sits on your chest like a drunk relative refusing to leave the couch. But somehow, despite sweating from every pore, you feel chilled. It starts in your back, crawls down your spine. A creeping cold that's not about temperature. It's something else. Internal. The medics call it jungle lung, or scrub fever, or whatever name they're using that week for the rolling buffet of respiratory illnesses hitting the unit. Some guys get lucky. Their cough fades. Others just get used to it. A few go down hard. Fever, chills, then quiet. They get stretchered out, assuming there's a stretcher to spare. Usually there isn't. So they crawl onto a tarp and wait for someone to notice they're not moving. You try not to think about it. But it's there. Every breath. Tight, shallow. Your lungs don't feel full anymore. You breathe in, and it's like there's no space for air. Just heat, humidity, and whatever mould is growing inside you now. Your shirt is soaked through before breakfast. You don't even sweat like a normal person anymore. You just leak. The officers say to stay hydrated. Rest when possible. Keep your kit dry. You laugh. Quietly. The last dry thing you touched was an envelope from home that disintegrated the moment you opened it. Your gear smells like mildew. Your sleeping bag has developed a new ecosystem. Your clothes are so damp, they hiss when you touch them. And resting? Resting is what happens to people who collapse. There's no wind, not here, not ever. The jungle is sealed. A giant, sweaty greenhouse where air goes in but never circulates. You fantasize about a breeze, just once. Something that moves the curtain of heat hanging over you. But there's nothing, just stillness. Oppressive. Like the whole place is holding its breath, waiting to see who breaks next. During marches, the air tastes different depending on the terrain. Near stagnant water, it's rotten, heavy with decay, like someone stored old meat in a damp sock. Near villages, it's smoke, charcoal, dung, and sour rice. In the deep jungle, it's just thick, green, not in colour, in sensation. You can almost chew it. Your lungs get used to it, or at least adjust. The way a prisoner adjusts to a cell. You stop breathing deeply, it's not worth it. Deep breaths bring in more heat, more spores, more of whatever microscopic horrors are floating around. You switch to shallow breathing, controlled, efficient. You talk less, laugh less. You just breathe, carefully, quietly. Then there's the mould. It's everywhere. In your boots, in your kit, on your rifle sling. A fine green fuzz that spreads like a rumour. You try to wipe it off. It comes back. Stronger. Faster. Your blanket has gone furry. Your canvas pack smells like it's fermenting. You've stopped cleaning it. What's the point? Some guys develop wheezing. Others nosebleeds. One man starts coughing up blood. He hides it for 2 days, then collapses in a drainage ditch during a supply run. Medics say it's a lung infection. Could be pneumonia. Could be something worse. He's evacuated by mule. You wonder what kind of odds he's got. Not great. You keep marching. Even when it's not raining, the air stays wet. Your fingers never dry. Your rifle stock feels slimy. You get used to smelling mould every time you exhale. You try holding your breath while sleeping. It doesn't work. And then the fever hits. It starts small. A bit of dizziness. A headache. Then your body starts to burn, but not outwardly. It's an internal furnace, like your organs decided to take revenge. Your skin's cold to the touch, but inside you're boiling. Your breath shortens. Vision blurs. You lie in your shelter, eyes wide open, gasping for air that doesn't help. The medic gives you quinine. It tastes like someone liquefied chalk and disappointment. You choke it down anyway. You take the pills. You drink water. You lie very still. You hope. 2 days pass. You don't remember most of them. You fade in and out. Dream. Hallucinate. At one point, you're pretty sure you saw your school teacher walk through the camp, scolding everyone for not brushing their teeth. You laugh. It comes out as a wheeze. Then you cough. And that's when you feel it. The rattle. Deep in your chest. Like something's growing there. You wonder if you're the next one on a stretcher. If you even get one. Then you wake up the next morning still breathing. Still weak. Still soaked in your own fever sweat. But alive. You sit up. You cough. It hurts. But the air goes in and out again. Mostly. You look around camp. One guy didn't make it. They buried him in a shallow grave at the edge of the jungle, wrapped him in a tarp, said a few words, moved on. You eat a cracker, drink water, shoulder your pack. The air is still thick, still hateful, still here. So are you. For now. Sleep is supposed to be recovery. That's what they told you. Body repairs itself. Brain resets. Strength returns. Not here. Not now. Not anymore. In Burma, sleep isn't rest. It's a coin toss. Sometimes you get an hour or two of twitchy, fever-drenched unconsciousness. Sometimes you lie flat on your back, staring at the underside of your tarp, blinking through the dark. waiting for something to crawl across your face. The night doesn't get quiet. It never does. The jungle doesn't stop just because you want it to. Crickets chirp like tiny machines breaking down in sequence. Frogs bellow, birds scream, insects buzz. And somewhere in the distance, something large moves, always just far enough away that you can't see it, but close enough to make you wonder if you should be reaching for your rifle instead of your canteen. Even if you could tune all that out, there's the heat. Night doesn't cool things down here. It just makes the sweat feel slower. It clings to your back, your legs, the backs of your knees. Your shirt is soaked before you lie down, and by morning it'll be wetter. You try to peel it off at night, hang it on a branch to dry. In the morning, it's heavier than it was the night before. Somehow it gained moisture and a smell. You try to use your mosquito net. It has holes. Everything has holes. The jungle doesn't allow barriers. The mosquitoes find a way in. And once they're in, they don't leave. You spend the first half hour of your rest slapping your neck, your arms, your forehead. You kill maybe 4. 8 more take their place. Your skin is already a map of raised welts. You stopped counting days ago. Sometimes it's not mosquitoes. Sometimes it's ants. Not the small kind. These ones bite. Big, red, aggressive. They get into your pack, your boots, your bedroll. One night you wake up because one is on your eyelid. You don't scream. You don't have the energy. You just brush it off and sit up, wide-eyed, breathing hard, waiting for your pulse to stop trying to punch through your neck. When it rains, and it always rains, your shelter becomes a noise machine. Not soothing, just loud. The sound of water slapping canvas, hitting leaves, pouring onto your gear. It doesn't drown out the jungle. It joins it. Adds percussion to the ongoing concert of chaos. The wind never helps. It just pushes more moisture into your tent. You wake up with water pulled under your back, your hips, your boots. Everything's damp. Again. Then there's the dreams. When you do sleep, they come hard. Not peaceful. Not comforting. They're jittery, fractured, strange. You dream of home, but not as it was. As it might be after it's forgotten you. You dream of food that turns to insects in your mouth. You dream of walking, endlessly, up a hill that never levels out. Then you wake up, and the real walking begins. Sometimes someone screams in the night. Not in pain, not always. Just fear. Something buried too long breaks loose. You hear it. Everyone hears it. And then it's quiet again. Nobody mentions it the next morning. Just like they didn't the morning before that. You all just eat your crackers, sip your tea, and keep marching. The men around you develop patterns. Johnson sleeps curled like a cat. Singh sleeps flat on his back, hands folded over his chest like a corpse. Davies, the one who never shuts up during the day, whimpers in his sleep like a kicked dog. You all pretend not to notice. It's the only courtesy left. Your body tries to adjust. You learn to sleep in bursts. 10 minutes at a time. Eyes half open. One hand always near your rifle. You don't remove your boots. Not anymore. The last time you did, something crawled inside them and died. Now you just loosen the laces and lie back. Every noise wakes you. A twig snap. A cough. A rustle. Could be an animal. Could be a Japanese scout. Could be nothing. You reach for your weapon every time. Sometimes you find yourself gripping it so tight your knuckles ache. You don't remember picking it up. You dream of mattresses now. Not soft ones. Just dry ones. A flat surface. Clean sheets. A blanket that doesn't stick to your skin. A room with silence. Real silence. Where walls exist. Where you can close a door and trust that nothing with legs, wings or venom is going to enter without knocking. You think about sleep the way starving men think about feasts. You crave it. Fantasize about it. Remember how it felt. Real sleep. Not the survival version. Not the jungle's parody of it. But it doesn't come. The jungle won't let it. The heat, the noise, the bugs, the itch, the fear. All of it conspires to keep you just alert enough to function, just tired enough to make mistakes. And those mistakes add up. One guy walks into a tree root and twists his ankle. Not because he's clumsy, because he was half asleep on his feet. Another falls asleep during a perimeter check. Wakes up to a slap and a fine. Nobody blames him. Everyone's thought about doing it. Some have. You try stimulants once. Little white pills handed out by a corporal with a grin and a shrug. They work for a day. You don't blink. You don't blink for so long it scares you. Then the crash hits. You spend the next night with your hands shaking and your teeth clenching so hard you think one might crack. After that, you stick to tea. Even when it tastes like boiled twigs and regret. At least it's familiar. Something hot, something predictable. You drink it, you sit. You stare into the jungle and wonder how many hours you'll get tonight. 1, 2, 3 if the gods feel generous. You lie down. You adjust your pack under your head. You hear rain and crickets and something breathing nearby, hopefully human. You close your eyes and drift. Not to sleep. Not really. Just to something close enough. You wake up scratching. Again. That's how most mornings start now. You're not even conscious yet, but your body knows. The itching is automatic. Your fingers dig at your calf, your thigh, your back. You don't bother checking for bites anymore. Of course they're there. What you're checking for is whether any of them are leaking. The first thing you see is the rash on your arm. You noticed it yesterday. A red patch, about the size of a coin, slightly raised. You hoped it would go away. It hasn't. Now it's spreading. Angry red blotches climbing up your bicep, the edges darkening, starting to blister. You don't panic. You don't even feel surprise. You just mutter something under your breath and start rolling down the rest of your sleeve to assess the damage. It's not just your arm. It's your feet, your thighs, behind your knees, under your arms. Anywhere skin touches skin or stays damp for too long, which is everywhere, all the time, you're rotting. Not metaphorically, literally. Your skin is falling apart. Someone once called it jungle rot. The medical name doesn't matter. Nobody uses it. The rot is more than a condition. It's a presence. A slow, creeping disintegration. It starts with a rash, then a crack, then a weeping sore, then the smell. That part comes fast. You know it's bad when you can smell yourself over the rest of the camp. You clean the wound the way you're told, rinse with water, dry with a rag, apply powder, wrap loosely. It's a joke. Your water's never clean. Your rags never dry. The powder ran out 3 weeks ago. All you have now is gauze that sticks to the wound and peels away skin when you remove it. You do it anyway. At breakfast, you sit awkwardly. Your inner thighs burn like someone's taken a rasp to them. You shift, slowly. Everyone else does the same. No one mentions it. You eat your cracker, sip your tea, and try to ignore the raw feeling spreading under your waistband. Later, during the march, your boots rub the open sore on your heel. With each step, the flesh grinds a little more. By midday it's bleeding. You pretend not to notice. Taking your boots off, would just expose the wound to the open air. And by air, you mean dirt, spores, sweat, and the occasional jungle microbe that seems specifically designed to turn minor cuts into full-blown medical emergencies. Someone ahead of you drops out of formation. He's limping. The back of his leg is open, a ragged line of red with pus leaking from the edges. The medic takes one look, frowns, and starts cutting the pant leg away. You glance once, regret it instantly, and look back down at the trail. Whatever he has, you probably have a version of it, just not as far along, yet. You start walking differently, not to conserve energy, to minimise friction. You take wider steps. Stand awkwardly. Anything to keep your thighs from touching. You walk like a man balancing plates on his hips. It helps, slightly. By the time you reach camp, the rot has spread. You can feel it behind your knees now. Damp, raw, warm. The feeling of skin that has decided to surrender its structural integrity. You drop your pack, sit, then immediately stand again. The pain from sitting is worse than standing. You try lying down. The canvas rubs the sores on your back. You settle for leaning against a tree. That's when you notice your toe. Just one of them. The left middle. The nails turning colour. Not black. That would be too easy. It's green. A shade that doesn't belong on flesh. You press on it. It moves. Too much. The skin around it is puffy, tight and hot. It pulses when you touch it. You stop touching it. You clean it as best you can. Remove the sock. Wash it in your canteen. Apply a strip of gauze. Whisper a threat at it. Then pull your sock back on. You'll deal with it later. You always deal with it later. Another guy is soaking his foot in a mess tin. He says it helps. You see the skin sloughing off in sheets. It doesn't look like it's helping. He doesn't care. It's all he has. No soap, no antiseptic, just water and blind hope. You dream of dry cotton, a fresh towel, a warm bath. Just once to clean everything properly. To scrub until your skin feels like yours again. You'd trade a month of rations for one bar of soap that didn't smell like military issue. But it's not coming. So you do what everyone else does. You scrape, you scratch, you peel. You slap on makeshift bandages and tape with cloth torn from your own kit. You rotate socks. You air your boots when you can. You say things like, "It's not that bad," while ignoring the black scab forming under your armpit. Someone else shows you his back, covered in red rings, fungal. Looks like lichen growing on a tree. He laughs. Says it doesn't even itch anymore. You don't laugh. You look at your own shoulder already flaking. That night, the pain keeps you awake. Every time you shift, something stings. A sore breaks open. A bandage sticks. You try not to move. Try to lie still. Pretend it's all going to heal on its own. You know it won't. You'll get through it, maybe. But healed? No, not here. Eventually the jungle stops feeling like it's outside you. It's in your pores now. In your sweat. In your bloodstream. Growing things. You scratch. Again. It bleeds. Again. You close your eyes. Morning will bring more of it. And you're still not out. Rations run low on the 7th day. They always do. It's not a surprise. You've been stretching them. Halving the crackers. Saving the beef tins. Turning tea into soup because it's the only warm thing left. The crates dropped last week were supposed to last 12 days. They lasted 9. The rest was eaten, bartered, spilled, spoiled, or quietly borrowed by the guys on night watch. You don't blame them. Hunger makes you generous in strange directions. Generous to yourself. By the time the last tin is cracked open and shared between 4 people, you're already thinking about alternatives. Everyone is. You try not to say it out loud, but the idea is there. Locals, villages. Supplemental sourcing, the lieutenant calls it, which is a polite way of saying eat whatever they're eating if they'll give it to you, and if it doesn't kill you first. A scout brings word that there's a village 2 miles off trail. Small, remote, friendly enough. They have rice, maybe vegetables, maybe even meat. Everyone perks up slightly, not out of excitement, just the faint memory of a hot meal, of something that didn't come out of a can, of something with flavour. You volunteer for the trip, not because you want to, because you haven't eaten properly in 2 days, and if you're going to die out here, you'd rather do it with a full stomach. You pack light, just your rifle, your canteen, and a few bars of soap and cigarettes. Currency in a place where actual currency is less useful than a fresh matchstick. The walk is quiet. Dense jungle as always. The heat is punishing. Your head throbs. Your stomach gurgles. You stopped sweating 2 days ago, which is bad, but not surprising. Dehydration's part of the uniform now. You reach the village by late afternoon. A collection of bamboo huts, chickens wandering between cooking fires, a few kids staring wide-eyed from doorways. The scout speaks the language. Sort of. Enough to get by. There's trading. Soap changes hands. You give up half your tobacco. In return, they offer food. Real food. Or what looks like it. You're handed a bowl. Rice. Sticky and steaming. Some kind of greens. Bitter. Fibrous. But edible. And a bit of meat. Tough. Dark. Slightly charred. No one asks what it is. Everyone knows better. You eat with your fingers. There are no spoons. No plates. Just a banana leaf, some rice, and the best smell you've encountered in a month. You're careful, at first. Small bites. Chewing slowly. Watching everyone else like you're waiting for them to explode. They don't. You eat more. And it tastes good. Salty. Spiced. Actual texture. The rice has crunch. The meat has flavour. You finish it all. Wipe your fingers on your trousers. Thank your hosts with a bow. Trade more cigarettes for another portion. And eat again. You walk back to camp at dusk. The sun bleeding through the canopy. The bowl of food now a warm weight in your belly. It feels like hope. It isn't. It starts with a noise. A soft gurgle just past midnight. Then the cramps. Lower stomach. Deep. Tight. You sit up. The pain sharpens. You break out into a sweat. A cold one this time. You know what this is. You've felt it before. But this is faster. Meaner. You scramble out of your shelter. You don't make it more than 10 steps. What happens next is not dignified. It's not even describable. Your body becomes a series of urgent expulsions. You vomit. You collapse. You lose everything. And then you keep losing more, even though there's nothing left to give. By dawn, you're a husk. Shivering, soaked, reeking of everything your body rejected. You lie in the mud. The medic gives you charcoal tablets and tells you to drink. You do. It comes right back up. Another guy is sick too. Not from your bowl. His came from the next village over. Same trade, same smile, same end result. You both lie side by side, competing to see who can moan more convincingly. It's a draw. By the second day, you stop being polite about it. You crawl to the edge of the camp, drop your trousers, and let nature do what it will. It doesn't even feel shameful anymore, just mechanical. You've been hollowed out. The smell is impossible to describe. Your clothes are ruined. Your blanket is ruined. You're ruining the ground you're lying on. You are, in every sense of the word, leaking. Someone mentions parasites. You nod. It would explain a lot. The pain, the fever, The sensation that something is squirming just under the surface of your belly. The medic shrugs. There's nothing he can do. Boil your water, he says. You want to laugh. You can't. You're too weak. The food you thought would save you has declared war, and you're losing. You get better eventually. Not well, just better. Enough to stand. Enough to keep water down. Enough to be told you're fit to march again. You stare at the sergeant like he's asked you to fly, but you get up. You always do. Marching is different now. Your gut still aches. You move slower, carefully. You don't eat much. You can't. Everything tastes wrong, like betrayal. Even the biscuits feel suspicious. You nibble. You sip. You shuffle. You pass another village on the trail. A woman holds out a pot. Rice. Smells incredible. Your stomach growls. You keep walking. Because you've learned. The jungle doesn't need bullets to kill you. Sometimes it just serves dinner. You're walking single file, as always. Trail's barely a trail, just a sequence of slightly less aggressive foliage. Your boots sink with every step. The leeches are back, of course. They never left. One's already squirming its way into your sock. You ignore it. You've got bigger problems now. Somewhere out here, there's a snake. Not in the abstract, not part of a warning in a manual. A real one. Last night, it slithered into Davies's tarp and made itself comfortable. He rolled over in his sleep and felt it moving across his thigh. He screamed. We all woke up. Guns were drawn. Orders were barked. No one fired because no one wanted to shoot Davies by accident, but we all saw it. A long, thick shape, coiled tight, too calm for something that deadly. The scout said it was a crate. That's the kind that kills you in your sleep. Doesn't even hurt. Just a numb sensation. Then your lungs stop bothering. Peaceful, apparently. If you ignore the part where your body forgets how to breathe. Davies didn't get bitten this time. He didn't sleep after that. Neither did anyone else. Now every stick is a snake. Every root, every black line in the grass. Your brain sees it before your eyes can confirm. You flinch constantly. Your nerves are shot. You hold your rifle tighter than usual. Not that it will help. Bullets don't mean much to something already under your tarp by the time you notice it. You think that's bad? That's not even the worst of it. You ever seen a jungle spider up close? Not the tiny ones, not the web spinners, the big ones, palm-sized, hairy, the ones that don't spin webs because they're not waiting for prey, they're hunting it. One dropped onto Miller's pack last week, just landed there, looked around, took a few steps. Miller froze like his spine had locked. Nobody moved. The spider eventually wandered off, apparently unimpressed with our selection of biscuits and misery. Later, we found its burrow. A hole the size of a soup can. Packed with bones. Not human, we think. Nobody checked too closely. The insects aren't just numerous. They're bold, aggressive. They've adapted to the environment better than we have. Mosquitoes bite through your clothes now. Ants get into sealed tins. Beetles chew through canvas. There are things with wings here that don't flap so much as buzz, like them running small generators. You kill them when you can, but they always come back. Usually in pairs. The jungle's full of things that move without making noise. That's the problem. You hear something, snap of a twig, rustle of a leaf, and you assume it's the enemy. But sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's worse. Like that one night a patrol came back early. Said they'd seen movement in the trees. Something big, low to the ground, striped. A tiger, one guy said. Swore on his mother's grave. said it followed them for half a mile. Didn't growl, didn't charge, just paced them. Watching. Judging. Someone asked why it didn't attack. He said it looked too well fed. That wasn't comforting. It just meant it was waiting. Next morning we found prints, big ones, too wide for a dog, too round for a cat. Definitely not a boot. The officers said it was probably a civet. The scout didn't say anything. Just looked at the trees like he expected them to start moving. Snakes are the worst. Because they don't look wrong. They blend. Perfectly. You don't see them until you step on one, and by then it's already deciding whether you're worth the venom. Some don't even need to bite. The bamboo pit viper. It just hangs out in trees. Drops. One guy took a hit to the shoulder. Didn't even scream. Just collapsed. By the time the medic got to him, he was pale and shaking, talking about his hands going numb. He made it. Barely. That was one bite from something the length of your forearm. We stopped hanging laundry after that. Not because we care about wearing wet clothes. We've accepted that part of our fate. But because things started hiding in them. One guy found a centipede inside his sock. Pulled it on half asleep. Spent the next hour convulsing and vomiting into the bush while his foot turned purple. Now we check everything. Shake boots, pat down tarps, poke cooking tins with a stick before opening them. Not because it works, but because it makes you feel slightly less helpless. Slightly? There's a story floating around. Could be true. Could be another brain-fried myth. A guy on sentry duty saw something in the trees. Big. Orange. Not a tiger. An orangutan. Or what he thought was one. It stared at him for a full minute. Then it grinned. Teeth like a row of knives. Then it vanished. No sound. No smell. Just gone. That guy's not on duty anymore. Last we saw, he was muttering into his tea about eyes in the dark. The jungle doesn't kill you with noise. It kills you with quiet. It waits, watches, tests the edges of your mind. It's not about whether there's a snake under your tarp. It's that eventually you'll believe there is, even if there isn't, and you'll check every time. The first time you see them you think they're deserters. Ragged, thin, barefoot or close to it. Their uniforms are torn to the point of irrelevance. Their eyes, sunken, red-rimmed, wide, look past you, not at you. One's limping. One has a rifle but no sling. One's carrying what might have once been a haversack, but now looks more like a pile of damp string. They're not deserters, they're Chindits. Nobody really explains what that word means. Someone says it's Burmese, something mystical. Others say it's just a name invented to sound exotic. Doesn't matter. What matters is they're supposed to be special. Special forces. Jungle warriors. The tough ones. The ones who get dropped deep behind enemy lines and make their own way out, ideally with fewer limbs missing than when they started. You see how that's been working out. They don't march in formation. They shuffle, limp, drag themselves along the edge of your camp like ghosts with rifles. You expect some kind of welcome, or at least recognition. Instead, they ignore you, as if acknowledging someone who still has meat on their bones is too much to bear. You ask one where they're coming from. He doesn't answer. Just holds up a hand, palm out, fingers blackened at the tips. Infection maybe, or frostbite from the high ground. He lowers the hand slowly, sits on a log, and doesn't move again for 10 minutes. They're not old, but they look old. Aged by days, not years. Days that stretch forever in the jungle. Unmeasured, unslept, unwashed. The officer briefs you the next morning. The Chindits are passing through, regrouping, resupplying. Whatever's left of their unit is being pulled back. You ask what happened. He doesn't answer, just says they held the line and moves on. You hear the stories. They walked into the jungle with no supply line, no fallback plan, just mules, radios, and enough explosives to raise eyebrows in 3 continents. Their job was to sabotage, harass, survive. Sometimes in that order, sometimes not. They cut their own paths, blew up bridges, raided depots, fought ambushes in the dark with knives and fists. And, when it came down to it, sticks and stones. They went weeks without rations, months without clean water. Some drank from puddles, others from streams that ran red after battle. You try not to think about that one. One night, you share a fire with one of them. He's younger than you expected. His boots are gone, replaced by scraps of cloth wrapped around bleeding feet. He holds them close to the flames, wincing as the heat hits raw skin. He doesn't talk much, just sits, poking the fire, staring into it like it owes him answers. Eventually he says something. Quiet. We had a radio, once. You wait. Stopped working day 6. More silence. We kept carrying it. You ask why. He shrugs. Something to carry? Something to do? You nod like that makes sense. It doesn't. But here nothing does. He points to a scar on his arm. Long, ragged. You ask what caused it? Tree. You blink. A tree? He nods. Exploded when the Jap shell hit the ridge. Of course, trees explode here. Forgot that part. Their medic died early on. Malaria. No one replaced him. They used charcoal, chewed roots, sewed wounds with fishing line. They did their own amputations. One guy had to cut off his toe with a mess tin lid. It wasn't sharp, just hot. They kept journals early on, then burned them for warmth when the rain wouldn't stop and the fevers started. Paper dries faster than hope. Burns faster too. You learn the one rule they all seem to live by. Don't stop moving. Even when you're bleeding. Even when your skin peels. Even when your buddy's lying face down in a pit and you know he's not getting up. You keep going. You always keep going. They lost maps, lost bearings, lost entire sections, lost names. Some can't remember their own, or won't say them. One guy goes by Captain, even though he has no insignia. No one argues. If you're still standing, you get to be whatever you want out here. You hear another story. Their CO kept telling them they were heroes. That what they were doing mattered. That they were buying time, forcing movement, turning the tide. Then they ran out of ammunition. No one came. No airdrops. No medevac. Just silence. They kept fighting anyway. With grenades. With fists. With rocks. You ask how many came back. One of them shrugs. Started with 200. Maybe 30 left. You ask how many of them are still all right. He laughs, then coughs, then walks away. They don't stay long. One morning, you wake up, and they're gone. No goodbyes, no sign they were ever there. Just a few empty ration tins, a boot print in the mud, and a broken strap from a pack that probably disintegrated 2 weeks ago. You look down at your own boots, still mostly intact, still attached to your own skin. You think about complaining, about the blisters, the leeches, the jungle rot. You stop yourself, because the men who marched out of here without boots didn't complain, and they're the lucky ones. The message comes through in the middle of the night. A runner, soaked, panting, carrying a folded slip of paper wrapped in plastic and swearing under his breath. He hands it to the lieutenant. No salute, just a nod, like, good luck with that. Then he turns and disappears back into the trees, probably to deliver the same message to someone else who doesn't want it either. The lieutenant reads it, doesn't react, just folds it again, sighs and gathers the section leaders. You sit nearby, pretending not to listen while listening as hard as you can. The words are familiar. Advance, reinforce, recon, hold position, typical, followed by the part that actually matters. Proceed through swamp sector by dawn. You hear it. You hear that one part, and everything else becomes background noise. Swamp sector by dawn. That's not a suggestion. That's not even a warning. It's a death sentence dressed up in military language. You've seen that area on the maps, vaguely. It's that part where the lines get fuzzy, where trails stop, where even the scout doesn't know what's in there. The place with no high ground. Just flat, soggy misery. A breeding ground for everything that bites, stings, crawls or infects. You're moving by 0400, no light, no warmth, just a slow trudge of wet boots and resentment. Everyone's silent, the kind of silence that comes after too many disappointments and too little sleep. The packs are heavier somehow, even though no one has eaten a full meal in days. Your rifle strap digs into your shoulder. Your legs feel like you're dragging them through cement. It doesn't take long before the swamp welcomes you. The ground goes from soft to liquid in about 5 steps. You test each footfall, but it doesn't matter. There's no firm footing, just layers of mud over deeper mud. You sink to your ankles, then your calves. You try not to lose your boots with each pull. The undergrowth closes in tighter. The air thickens. Everything buzzes. You swat at mosquitoes without looking. The repellent wore off hours ago, not that it ever worked. Your face is already a patchwork of welts and sweat. No one's talking, but everyone's thinking the same thing. Why? Why this route? Why now? Why any of it? You pass a man-sized hole in the mud. Not a footprint. A pit. Something fell in, or was dragged in. No one investigates. You just skirt the edge, walking faster, even though you shouldn't. Then the guide loses the trail. Says it like it's no big deal. Lost the trail. As if the trail was ever real to begin with. As if there's any kind of path in a place where trees grow sideways and the ground smells like rot. You're told to fan out. Look for a crossing. Reconvene at the tree line. There is no tree line, just trees, everywhere. Forward, backwards. No change in density, no obvious direction. You walk forward because standing still isn't safe. Your feet slide with every step. You step into a puddle and immediately drop to your knee. The water is black, cold, it stinks. You pull yourself out, now coated in something thick and slimy that might once have been organic. You hear yelling. Not panic. Just the angry kind. Someone sank to his waist and dropped his kit trying to climb out. Another guy has lost his boot. He's holding it in one hand, staring at it like it betrayed him. He walks barefoot now, through mud that could easily be hiding broken bamboo, thorns, or worse. The lieutenant says, "Keep moving." Like, it's just that simple? You do? By mid-morning, you're not marching. You're floundering. Every few minutes, someone sinks too deep and needs help out. The rope gets used more than the map. You've gone maybe a mile. Maybe. No one knows. The compass broke an hour ago. The radio's not working. Again. Too much water. Too much interference. The orders were clear. Proceed through the swamp. Hold the ridge. You haven't even seen a ridge. You're beginning to doubt such a ridge exists. The heat is different here. More stagnant. Less air. You breathe in and feel your lungs working harder for less return. One guy's starting to wheeze. Not asthma, just exhaustion. Another is pale, clammy. You suspect fever, but you say nothing. Then someone steps on something. It wasn't alive, not anymore. You don't know what it was. Maybe a mule, maybe a man. It's too far gone to tell. Just a shape, half sunken, one arm reaching skyward. The rot is advanced. The smell is immediate. You keep walking. Around noon, you hear the first shot. One rifle, far off, not in your unit. Then another, closer. You drop. Everyone does. You wait, listen. Then the lieutenant says the line you dread, advance. You don't ask who's shooting or why. Doesn't matter. You move forward. The enemy doesn't fire again. Just those 2 shots. Maybe a signal. Maybe an accident. Maybe a warning. You don't find them. You don't find anyone. Just more swamp. And then the sun goes away. Not behind clouds. Behind jungle. The canopy tightens. The light dims. You feel the temperature rise. You hear movement. No one knows if it's Japanese or animals or just the jungle reshuffling itself. The lieutenant pulls out the map. It's useless. Soaked, torn, ink smeared. He stares at it like it might reassemble itself. It doesn't. Eventually someone says it out loud. We shouldn't be here. Nobody disagrees, but here you are, because someone far away drew a line on a map and said advance. They don't see this place. They don't smell it. They don't have leeches on their chest or rot between their toes. They just issue orders. And you follow them, because that's the job. Even if it gets you killed. By the time you're through the swamp, you're 20 pounds lighter, 2 days behind schedule, and just about out of everything that matters. The lieutenant makes a head count, then a kit check, then swears under his breath so softly only the sergeant hears. Here's the situation. 5 tins of meat, a handful of biscuits, 3 unopened packets of powdered tea, and 1 last slab of chocolate someone had duct taped inside a spare sock for emergencies. Guess what? Is an emergency. You're almost out of ammunition too. Not completely, but low enough that people have stopped wasting shots on warning bursts. One guy fired 3 rounds at a shape in the trees last night and got chewed out, not because he might have hit a civilian, but because he'd wasted 3 rounds. Nobody even checked what the shape was. You're told supplies are coming. Airdrop scheduled. Tomorrow, they say. The same tomorrow you were promised 3 days ago. It's always tomorrow. Until tomorrow becomes yesterday, and nobody remembers if it was real or just another thing you hallucinated through the fever. Airdrops are supposed to be routine. Marker clearing, send up a signal, get crates. Simple, efficient. Assuming the aircraft gets the location right. Assuming the weather cooperates. Assuming the pilot isn't flying blind through a thunderstorm with Japanese anti-aircraft fire lighting up the horizon. Assuming you have a clearing. You don't. Not anymore. Last drop landed 2 miles off target, in a ravine. Nobody said anything when the corporal broke his ankle climbing down after it. Just added him to the mule rotation and moved on. Most of the supplies were ruined anyway. Waterlogged, torn open. Rats got to the chocolate. Ants got to the biscuits. A monkey walked off with a sock full of sulphur powder. You watched it happen. It was surreal. Sometimes the crates come down with parachutes, sometimes not. Depends on what HQ packed that day. Once, a crate of ammunition slammed into a rock and scattered .303 rounds across half a hillside. Took an hour to recover them all. Another time, a box of boots landed in a tree and hung there like a cruel joke, swaying gently just out of reach. When supplies do make it in one piece, everyone crowds around like it's Christmas. A dirty, wet, disease-riddled Christmas, where your gift is a lukewarm tin of bully beef and a strip of canvas that might be a bandage if you squint. You ration it all. Divide it by section. Someone tries to hide a bar of soap in their undershirt. They get caught. Nobody speaks. Just a cold look and a silent redistribution. Then there's the mule teams. When they work, they're the lifeline. Quiet, steady, tough. They carry your spare ammo, water, medkits, batteries, tools. You protect them more than you protect some of the men. Because if a mule goes down, that's 50 pounds of survival now buried in mud. But the terrain doesn't care about mules. One slipped off a ridge last week. You heard the sound, a half scream, half bray, then silence. When you got down there, the pack was shredded and the mule was gone. Nothing left but blood and a trail that disappeared into the trees. Some men blame the enemy for supply delays. Others blame the weather. Most blame the officers. Someone back at headquarters draws a neat red line from depot to you and assumes that's the end of the conversation. They don't see the mountains, the rivers, the jungle that swallows some maps whole. They don't see the places where paths become pits and bridges are just a rumour. You tried to send a radio message for resupply last week. The signal cut out halfway through. Too much cloud cover, or interference, or bad luck. Nobody knows. You tried again the next morning. Still nothing. You haven't tried since. The medic's running out of bandages. He's down to a few rolls of gauze, some iodine, and a half-empty bottle of quinine pills that smell like rust. He's using jungle leaves now. They work, sort of. Until they don't. Someone's out of matches. He begs for one, offers his last tin of tea. You don't have any either. So you both eat cold rice, chew silently, and try to remember what warm food tastes like. There's a rumour, always a rumour, that another unit is hoarding rations. Sitting on crates. Living well while you slog through ankle-deep mud, eating flavoured cardboard. You don't believe it. But if you found them, you don't know what you'd do. Trade? Steal? Beg? Shoot? One man ate a frog yesterday. Skinned it with his bayonet. Roasted it over a fire. Said it tasted like victory. You didn't ask for a bite. You weren't that desperate. Yet. The quartermaster back at base probably has a ledger. Rows of clean handwriting. Unit 14B, 5 crates issued, 2 weeks' rations, ammunition sufficient. It looks good on paper. Makes someone feel like they're doing their job. Meanwhile, you're boiling rainwater in a bent can and hoping the next packet of rations doesn't come with maggots pre-installed. Eventually, you stop counting supplies. Stop hoping. You just check your pockets, check your kit, and keep walking. If food comes, great. If it doesn't, you'll figure something out. Eat plants, insects, hope. Whatever still grows out here that won't try to grow back inside you. Until then, it's another march, another empty belly, another tomorrow. You've been walking through jungle for hours. No sign of movement, no gunfire, no trenches, no uniforms, just wet trees and mud. You'd almost think the war forgot this place exists. Then someone trips a wire and the jungle explodes. It's not a full-on ambush. Not yet. Just a mine. Buried in the path. Primitive. Crude. Still enough to take a leg off below the knee. The guy behind you goes down hard, screaming. You all hit the ground, rifles up, eyes scanning. But there's nothing. No second blast. No bullets. Just birds taking off and silence settling again like fog. This is how they fight. You expected front lines. Charges. flags, anything that made noise. Instead you get this, the creeping suspicion that you're being watched, followed by the sudden confirmation in the form of a trap or a sniper shot that comes from a tree you just walked past. They don't fight the way you were trained for. No rules, no rhythm. They don't mass in numbers. They don't announce themselves. They hit, vanish, and let the jungle do the rest. Sometimes they don't even fire. Sometimes they just let you march until your rations run out, then hit you when you're already half dead from rot and starvation. The Japanese troops in Burma don't yell when they attack. They don't run out in waves like in the old newsreels. They wait, let the terrain do the damage. They know the jungle better than you. Move through it quieter, lighter. You're slogging, they're gliding. You step on a branch, they're already behind you. There's a technique, silent approach. You heard about it in briefings, dismissed it then. Can't now, because it works. No shouting, no rallying cries. Just the quiet click of safety off and a muzzle flash in the night. You lose a man 2 days ago, no firefight, no noise. He just didn't show up for the morning roll. His tarp was empty. Boots gone, rifle gone. No sign of struggle like the earth just took him. You checked for blood? None. You called? Nothing. You spread out to look? Still nothing. Eventually the officer told you to move. So you did. They bury themselves, sometimes. You found that out the hard way. A small hill turned into a grenade pit when one of the guys kicked dirt off what looked like a pile of leaves. It wasn't. There were men underneath, real ones, holding their breath for hours, waiting. Their uniforms blend better than yours. They stripped them down to nothing but the essentials. Their weapons are wrapped to muffle the metal. Even their boots are quieter. Rubber soles. Softer. Smarter. They don't fight for ground. Not really. They fight for attrition. To wear you down. Take a few of you here, another few there. Let disease and hunger do the bulk of the job. You realise that after the 3rd week of marching through empty jungle, seeing no enemy but losing men anyway, they love the high ground. You learn that the same way you learn everything out here. Too late. You're moving along a ridge when the shots come from above. Controlled, one at a time. They're not wasting bullets. Each one means something. One guy drops. Another dives for cover and takes a shot to the hip. You return fire, but there's no clear target. Just leaves. Shadows. Maybe movement. Maybe not. When you get up there, the shooters are gone. Like smoke. They took their brass. Left no bodies. Just a few empty shell casings and a cigarette still burning beside a tree. That's the part that stays with you. They were there, a moment ago, watching. They booby-trapped the obvious routes. Rations left in the open? Don't touch them. That's bait. Abandoned tents? Tripwired? A rifle leaning against a stump? Could be rigged to a grenade. Every object becomes a threat. You start seeing danger in everything, and sometimes you're right. Some of them speak English. Not many, but enough. One night you hear someone whisper, "Come here," from the brush. Just 3 words. Chilling, you freeze. No one moves. A guy aims his rifle and fires into the dark. You wait. Nothing comes back. But someone was there, and they knew what to say. They leave signs. Sometimes bodies, posed. Not hastily killed, but deliberately placed, like warnings. Sometimes messages scrawled in mud or scratched into bark, not elaborate, just enough to say, "We're ahead of you, and you're not ready." At night, you don't light fires anymore. Too risky. You eat cold, sleep cold, move quietly. One night, you don't sleep at all. Not because of fear, though it's there, but because the lieutenant says they might try a night crawl. No shooting, just knives. Up close. Personal. You sit with your back to a tree. Knife in one hand, rifle across your lap. Eyes half closed, listening, always listening. Every snap of a twig makes your breath catch. They're patient. That's what gets you. You're running on borrowed calories and second-hand medicine. They're hidden, quiet, waiting. They don't need to win a firefight. They just need you to get tired enough to make a mistake. And eventually you will, because that's what command doesn't get. You don't lose to the Japanese because they outnumber you. You lose because they outweight you. You hear about the Arakan offensive long before you get there. Rumours, orders, briefings filled with phrases like break the Japanese hold and push through the coastal plain. Words meant to inspire. Words that mean nothing when you're standing knee-deep in mud, rain pouring down, and your boots filled with water that smells faintly of rot and regret. The journey to Arakan is a test of endurance, patience, and the limits of human misery. You leave your usual jungle trail behind for a landscape that's wetter, muddier, and more hostile. Mangrove swamps stretch as far as the eye can see, tangled roots rising out of the water like grasping fingers. Every step is a gamble. The mud pulls at your boots, your legs, your very will to keep moving. The rain here is relentless. Not the monsoon's slow soaking drizzle. This is buckets of water from the sky, hammering down without mercy. It drowns the world in grey, hides the enemy, and makes everything slick and treacherous. Your uniform is soaked through before you even reach the front lines. Your rifle feels heavier, clumsy, as if protesting the endless wetness. The Arakan offensive is supposed to be a coordinated strike, a chance to push back, to gain ground. Instead it becomes a slow slog through quagmire and jungle, where every gain is measured in feet, and every foot costs sweat, blood, and sanity. You move in formation, but it feels more like a funeral procession than an attack. Men are exhausted before the first shots are fired. Boots filled with water cause blisters that split open, turning into festering sores that no one has time to treat. Your feet become a battlefield of their own. The mud clings to your legs like glue, sucking energy away with every step. The Japanese defense is patient and cruel. They've fortified positions in the hills and along the rivers. They use the terrain to their advantage, forcing you into kill zones hidden by thick foliage. Machine guns open fire from concealed bunkers. Mortar shells fall like angry raindrops. Every advance is met with fire and counterattack. Supply lines can't keep up. Food and ammunition trickle in sporadically, often delayed or lost in the mud. Medical aid is stretched thin. Wounded men lie unattended for hours, sometimes days, their cries swallowed by the jungle. You see comrades fall not just from bullets, but from exhaustion, disease, and despair. The offensive drags on for weeks with little progress. Command tries to maintain morale with promises of victory, but the men know better. They see the mud, the blood, the endless rain. They hear the steady drip of death around them. One night, the rain stops briefly. You look up and see the sky, dark but clear, filled with stars that seem impossibly far away. For a moment, you almost forget where you are, almost feel hope. Then the rain starts again, harder than before. The Arakan offensive grinds to a halt, not with a triumphant victory, but with a weary retreat. The jungle reclaims the ground as quickly as you lost it. The dead are left behind, the wounded are evacuated, many never to return. The survivors shuffle back, broken, sodden, and silent. You realise this is what war looks like here. Wet, wild, and utterly useless. The problem with war in Burma is that it's not really the war that tries to kill you first. It's everything else. The environment, the air, the water, your own body turning against itself in slow, sloppy betrayal. You come here expecting the enemy to wear a uniform. Turns out most of them don't. The first warning signs come subtle. A scratchy throat, a mild headache. Someone complains their joints hurt. Nothing serious. Nothing worth slowing down for. By the time it becomes serious, they're already in the back of the column, doubled over, pouring sweat, eyes bloodshot, shaking like they're being electrocuted from the inside out. Malaria maybe, or dengue, or scrub typhus. Could be dysentery again. Or all of the above. You stop asking. The symptoms blend together. Fever, nausea, fatigue, confusion. It's not about what you have. It's about how long it will take before you can't walk anymore. Every man you meet out here has a tally. How many bouts of fever? How many times they've blacked out? How many days they've gone without a proper bowel movement? They speak in days, not numbers. Day 3, someone says, and you know he hasn't kept food down since Monday. Day 6 means he probably needs to be carried soon. There's a kind of triage that develops among the section. If a man can still stand, he walks. If he can't, someone gives him quinine or whatever's left of it, shoves a canteen in his hand, and tells him to lie in the shade and wait. If he doesn't die by nightfall, maybe he'll make it. The jungle has no mercy. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. Just slow collapse. Soft moans. The sound of a man trying to swallow with a dry mouth and a swollen throat. You give him water. It comes back up. You try again. Eventually he stops asking. You all carry water purification tablets. Or did. Most are gone now. Lost in river crossings. Dissolved in wet packs. Used too early. So you boil water when you can. But that takes time. And fire. And dry fuel. Good luck finding that out here. So most of the time, you drink it straight, brown, warm, slightly moving. You tell yourself your stomach's used to it. You're wrong. The latrines, when they exist, are a trench and a stick. You dig shallow holes. You bury what you can. Sometimes you don't even have time for that. You just step off the trail, drop your trousers, and hope no one's watching. Privacy died weeks ago. Modesty followed. The stench lingers. Clings to your clothes, your fingers, your breath. You try not to touch your face. Doesn't matter. The bacteria are already inside you. You learn to recognise the look, the pale skin, the glassy eyes, the distant stare of a man whose body is already boarding a different train. He's still here technically, still walking, but only because gravity hasn't made a final decision yet. Some guys hallucinate. One kept calling for his dog, Is. Nobody had the heart to tell him the dog had probably been dead for a decade. Another swore he saw his mother cooking breakfast by the riverbank. You laugh, gently, then keep your distance. The med kits are a joke, a tin box with a few tablets, a roll of gauze, and scissors too dull to cut anything except morale. You make do. Crush aspirin into powder. Reuse bandages. Patch with shirt fabric. Hope. The medics do what they can. But they're fighting a war with string and hope. You see one guy trying to bring down a fever with soaked socks and a wet cloth. That's not medicine. That's superstition. But when it's all you've got, you call it treatment. Eventually, disease becomes routine. Not an incident. A background noise. You wake up, cough, swallow bile, and keep going. If your fever's below screaming, you march. If your bowels are only semi-liquid, you're fit for duty. If you're not actively convulsing, you're useful. The Japanese aren't blind to this. They know they don't need to kill you directly. They just need to outlast you. Let the jungle do the bulk of the work. They're used to the terrain. You're not. Their uniforms are lighter. Their rations better suited. Their trenches better dug. Meanwhile, you're getting eaten alive from the inside. Someone dies every few days now. Not from combat, just infection. One guy scratched a bite until it festered. Another got trench foot so bad his toes turned black. By the time they noticed, it had already crept up his calf. They tried to amputate. He didn't wake up. Sometimes you think about bullets. How clean they are, fast, clear. A noise, a fall, a finish. Compared to this, weeks of sweating, gasping, begging for water, it seems almost merciful. The enemy might be the reason you're here, but it's your own bloodstream that's trying to kill you. There's no announcement when it ends, no trumpet, no marching band, no radio crackle with the word evacuation. It just shifts. One day the sergeant mutters that command's pulling back. Something about monsoon season. Something about strategic redeployment. Nobody listens too closely. They hear one thing, and one thing only. Out. The rumour spreads before the orders do. The reaction is muted. Not joy, not relief, just exhaustion with a new flavour. You've been here so long you forgot this wasn't permanent. Some men laugh. A dry, barking kind of laugh that doesn't reach their eyes. Others just sit down and stare at their boots like they're waiting for them to start walking on their own. You begin packing, but there's not much to take. Your gear's been slowly degrading for months. Your pack's half empty. Either things fell apart, or were lost in the mud. Your mess tin's dented beyond recognition. Your spare shirt has more fungus than fabric. You carry it anyway. It's yours. That's enough. Marching out doesn't feel different from marching in. The jungle doesn't care that you're leaving. It rains anyway. The leeches still find you. The air still smells like old rot and wet bark. Your body still hurts in places you stopped counting. Your left foot is raw again. Your lower back pulses. Your hands shake when you stop moving long enough to notice. There's talk of a landing strip, airlift, a flight out. No one believes it. The only aircraft most of you have seen since arriving were too far away or too late. If there's a plane, fine. If not, you'll walk. You're used to walking. You've done nothing but walk. The road back is different though. You pass old sites. Places where fights happened. Places where people didn't make it. There's the bend in the trail where Myers got hit. The clearing where the supplies were supposed to drop but never did. The ridge where someone built a cross out of sticks and never said who it was for. You don't talk much. Not from silence, from fatigue. Words take effort. You save your breath for walking. Someone coughs the whole way. Deep, wet, constant. You don't ask. You don't want the answer. Eventually the trees thin. The ground firms up. You start seeing things that aren't jungle. An old road. A collapsed fence. A rusted out truck half swallowed by vines. Civilization or what's left of it. When you reach the evac point, you expect someone to meet you. A commanding officer. A medic. A truck. There's nothing. Just a field and a windsock that barely moves. You drop your pack and sit on the ground without being told. There's a line for rations. A line for water. A line for nothing in particular. You stand in all of them, just in case. You get a biscuit, tea, An actual blanket. It smells like kerosene and mildew, but it's dry. A guy in a clean uniform walks by, clipboard in hand, asking for names. You say yours. He checks a box, doesn't even look at you. Keeps walking. You wonder if he even hears you at all. The flights come slowly, one by one. A small plane, a short list, a quick load up. You wait your turn. You're not on the first one, or the second. You try not to mind. You've waited longer for less. Eventually, it's your name. You climb the ramp with legs that feel like stilts. The inside smells like fuel and leather and noise. You sit by the window and look out at the jungle that nearly killed you. It looks smaller from here, almost harmless. You know better. The flight is short. You barely remember it. A blur of vibration and engine hum. You land. Someone hands you a paper to sign. Someone else points you toward a building that might be a hospital. You're not sure. You're processed. That's the word they use. Like meat. Like cargo. You're weighed, measured, questioned, recorded. Nobody asks how you feel. Nobody wants to know. That's not the part they're documenting. There's a shower. Hot water. The first in months. You stand under it until your skin turns red. You look down at your feet and realise they've started healing. A little. Enough. Someone gives you new clothes. They don't fit. You wear them anyway. You're told you're rotated out. That sounds like a favour. Like a gift. Like they didn't just run you down until you were 2 bad days from a coffin. You're sent to a rest camp. It's not restful. Just cleaner. The beds have sheets. The food isn't mouldy. The nurses smile. You don't smile back. Not because you're ungrateful. Just because you don't remember how. Other men are there too. Some from your unit. Most not. All of them quiet. All of them eating like they're still being watched. One guy flinches when a plate drops. Another stares at his hands like he doesn't recognise them. You hear someone ask, "Are you going home?" And you realise the answer's complicated. Because home isn't where it used to be. You're home now, supposedly. Different continent, different climate, different people asking questions like they actually want answers. What was it like? They say, eyes wide, full of that dangerous curiosity, like they're expecting stories about glory, about heroism, about sacrifice, the kind that photographs well and fits neatly into a headline. You think about answering. Then you remember what it was actually like. It wasn't flags or speeches. It was leeches in your socks and rot in your boots. It was drinking rainwater out of your helmet because the last stream had a corpse in it. It was watching a man scratch his arm until the skin came off and still having to share a foxhole with him. But you don't say that. You nod. You say, it was rough. You say, glad to be back. And then you move the conversation somewhere safer. Something about the weather, or the food, or how strange it feels to sleep without bugs crawling across your face. They talk about medals like they mean something. Yours sits in a box, unopened, issued at some staging area after you landed. You were too tired to care, still are. You didn't do anything special. You survived. That's not courage, that's statistics. You hear about a film being made, about the jungle war, about our boys in Burma, a dramatisation. You laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's the kind of stupid only civilians can manage. You imagine an actor, clean, square-jawed, wearing a perfectly pressed uniform, sprinting through foam vines while machine gun fire rattles off stage. You wonder if they'll include the scene where someone dies from infected mosquito bites. Probably not. Doesn't test well with audiences. The politicians talk about turning the tide. You don't remember a tide, just endless mud. No map, no clean water, no plan. But apparently you were part of history. Something strategic. A flank. A campaign. A theatre of war. That's the word they use, theatre. Like it was ever rehearsed. Like anyone had a script. People say you must be proud. You say yes. Because it's easier than explaining the truth. That you don't feel much of anything anymore. Except cold in your bones and an occasional sharp jolt of memory when someone drops a plate or lights a match. There are nights you still wake up with your rifle in your hands. Except it's not there. It's never there. You check under your pillow anyway, just in case. Old habits. You walk past a butcher's shop, and the smell takes you straight back to the jungle, to that moment you opened a tin of bully beef that had gone off in the heat and watched 3 guys gag before anyone had even touched it. You go home and skip dinner. You see trees differently now. Not peaceful, not pretty. Just tall, vertical things that might be hiding someone with a rifle or something with fangs. You cross the street to avoid overgrown hedges. You don't realise you're doing it. You visit a war memorial once. People stand in silence. There are wreaths, names carved into stone. You scan the list. Find one that looks familiar. Not someone you knew well. Just a surname. You stand there longer than you should. No one asks why. There's a reunion for your unit. You don't go. You think about it. You even circle the date. Then the day comes, and you're sitting on your bed, staring at your boots, unable to put them on. You tell yourself next year. You know you're lying. Some days are better than others. You have tea, read the paper, sit in the sun, and almost forget. Then someone mentions the war, the jungle, Burma, and you remember everything. The weight of your pack, the feel of mud creeping into every seam, the sound of a man dying quietly because no one had the strength to carry him anymore. They say time heals. Maybe, but it doesn't disinfect. It doesn't scrub out the smell. It doesn't change what happened when the cameras weren't rolling. The Burma Campaign isn't in textbooks. Not really. Just a few lines, a map, some arrows. No mention of how many died in silence. How many lived and never spoke again. No space for the ones who came back but didn't come home. Romanticising war is easy when you weren't there. The jungle doesn't write poems. It just waits for the next batch. And that, more or less, was the Burma Campaign. Not the version with medals and documentaries. Just the real one. The wet one. The one where your skin peeled, your friends vanished, and your rifle weighed more than your own soul. So next time someone says they wish they could go back in time and fight in World War II, maybe don't hand them a uniform. Just stick them in a jungle during monsoon season with 2 tins of expired meat and a shovel. Let's see how nostalgic they feel after the first night of jungle rot and rice boiled in their own tears. But hey, you made it. Somehow. Congratulations. Now close your eyes. Try not to dream about leeches. Good night.